In schools like this one is struck the first spark which, with proper care, will grow into the desire of accomplishment that guarantees a strong and free nation. But in this school, as in many others, the door of opportunity to learn doesn't always swing open for every student. A problem exists. Stated simply, not all first grade students speak English. Yes, in our country, the United States.
It's no secret that English is a weird language, weirder than most. In the 1950s, Mexican students who were starting elementary school were struggling with their grades because they didn't know how to speak English. In 1957, Isabel Verver and Felix Tijerina founded the Little School of 400. Its goal was to teach Spanish-speaking children 400 words in English to help them successfully pass the first grade. Verver, a teenager who wanted to help out her community, taught the class. The school was held during the summer of 1957 in Ganado, Texas, and taught 60 kids. The program was so successful that the next year, LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, held similar classes in other towns like Edna and Aldine. These programs were privately funded, but Verver and Tijerina, along with the other members of LULAC, worked to pass a bill during the 56th Texas legislation. House Bill 51 introduced a state-sponsored program called the Preschool Instructional Classes for Non-English-Speaking Children. This program was later replaced with others, such as Project Head Start. Project Head Start started when President Lyndon B. Johnson caught sight of the success of LULAC's programs and decided to spread this across the country as part of his war on poverty. Of course, it's no secret that English is a weird language. But thankfully, with all the work from LULAC, the technology and programs we have today, non-English-speaking students have many more resources to help them learn this confusing language. Felix Tijerina was the 20th president of LULAC, also known as the League of United Latin American Citizens, and the founder of the Little School of 400. Felix was born in 1905 to farm workers. When he was 9, his dad died, leaving him to look after his mother and 3 sisters. When he was 13, he moved to Houston and got a job as a busboy. In 1933, he married Juanita Gonzalez. Felix then became the founder of the Latin American Club of Harris County, which worked to educate Mexican Americans on their political rights. In 1956, Felix became the president of LULAC, and it merged with the LAC. He began to notice that a lot of Latin American students were failing the first grade because they didn't know English. Felix decided to start a school to teach them the English language, which was dubbed the Little School of 400. Isabel Verver, a high school student, read about Felix in a magazine and asked if she could teach the class. In 1957, Isabel Verver became the official teacher of the Little School of 400. Because it was so successful, Felix and LULAC made more little schools in different towns. These classes were taught by local Latin American women. The grades of the students who took the class changed drastically, and they had a greater success rate than the students who didn't. Eventually, the school closed in the mid-1960s due to Project Head Start. Project Head Start was inspired by the Little School of 400 and more widespread. In 1965, Felix unfortunately died of heart disease. Even though he died, he was remembered through the Tijerina Elementary School and the Tijerina Foundation Scholarship, which is a program that helps students go to school. In the 1940s, a little Latina first grader who lived in Ganado, Texas, needed to go to the restroom. There was one problem. She couldn't speak English, and her teacher couldn't understand her. The teacher put her hand on the girl's shoulder and told her to sit down. The girl listened to her instructions and had an accident. Fueled by embarrassment and determination, this was the day that Isabel Verver de la Vega promised to herself that she would learn how to speak English. Years later, as a teenager, she read about Felix Tijerina, the president of the League of Latin American Citizens, and the great things that LULAC was accomplishing. 14-year-old Isabel was inspired by them and wanted to help him teach kids basic English words at Ganado Elementary School during the summer. Soon after, Isabel got in contact with Tijerina and they met up at her house. Tijerina was thrilled with Isabel's volunteering and said that he would help her out with anything she needed. Isabel was able to meet up with a professor to discuss the development of the 400. Isabel then obtained the school's principal's approval of the idea. When she started, she had only 5 students, even after knocking on so many doors. Isabel felt discouraged, but by showing parents what their kids could learn, she was able to get a full classroom. At the time, Isabel was too young to understand how much a difference she had made. She taught until her father's crops were destroyed by a hurricane, which was when she had to stop teaching and start working for him. Even though she no longer worked with the children, the impact she had on America can never be erased.